Hello, welcome to my official YouTube podcast, Gaurav here. So, the second T20 international match just finished. It finished quite quickly. You must say that. I think the chase was about 200, and India did manage to score in this 200 chase in 16th over. And the batting was looking like that. We are watching the highlights. So we have been joined by none other than Michael Wagner. We'll discuss this how this New Zealand T20 team is doing right now. What are the things we need to improve going ahead in the New Zealand team? So Michael, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So tell me one thing. The New Zealand bowling lineup, which has been the talk of the town because there are not a lot of new bowlers which have been coming to the rank, right? Jacob Duffy and Folks is also there, and after that, Matt Henry has come back to the team, but the bowling was not up to the mark once again. Michael, are you there?
Can you hear me there? Is that working?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I mean, I think the fielding was more of an issue than the bowling in some ways. New Zealand dropped 4 catches in that match, add on 4 wickets
Yeah,
there, and that's suddenly a very different situation. Um, Look, I feel a little bit for Zach Folks. He's a swing bowler. You've got to give him a chance to bowl. And he's going to get a lot of blame for that result today, I think. And particularly there was a lot of criticism of Santner bowling him up front. But you've got to give your swing bowlers a chance to bowl with a new ball. If you're not going to give them a new ball, then why would you pick him? So, look, I feel there was a few disappointments. I feel more that some of the decision making around the matchups and who to bowl when was perhaps a little bit dubious. When you've got uh, a left-hander who struggles against off spin playing, he's got a known weakness, and you don't bowl Glenn Phillips at all. You say, well, what's going on there? So I think there was some captaincy decisions that were a little bit dubious. But ironically, the one to bowl Folks in the third over, I think was a reasonable option. Although you can argue if the bowler gets a wicket, give them another over, and perhaps Henry and Duffy giving them one more each at the start might have been a good move.
okay. You're talking about the captaincy. As I told you, I think you were obviously listening to commentary also for the New Zealand. I think Simon Dool. I think on the first T20 itself, I think Rinku Singh was batting at that point of time, and I think it was the last over, and he given the ball to Daryl Mitchell. So the captaincy issue has been going around for some time, right? For Mitchell Satner.
I don't have a problem with giving Daryl Mitchell the final over. Um, that's a role that Daryl Mitchell has done in domestic cricket and done very well. So the odd bad over isn't unexpected. But I mean, he is a death over specialist, and it's not bad giving him that final over occasionally. But I think some of the other decisions are more questionable. Um, you know, Glenn Phillips is a reasonable T20 bowler. He's not a great bowler, but he's a reasonable bowler, and he's an off spinner. So you've got a left-hander going hard. You get an off spinner in and start to take the ball away from him and see how he goes. Um, I thought Sodhi actually bowled better than his stats say. I thought Sodhi actually looked quite good, and there was one of the, I think maybe the seventh over, there was a ball that it would have got out almost every batsman in the world, and it just cleared the head of the fielder and went for six.
Yeah.
You just look at that. Well, that's you just have to say good batting there when that happens. Likewise, there was a lot of criticism by I think it was Gavaskar was criticising the DRS decision where he said, "I clearly pitched outside leg," and you saw on the
Yeah, it was
actual
picking outside leg.
that it pitched outside leg by about 5 millimeters. It was right on the line, and it was worth at that point there taking a gamble to try and get a wicket because it wasn't that far outside leg, and it was a top spinner. It was not a terrible call to go for that, I thought. But yeah, look, I mean, it, if you're playing 8 bowlers in the team, you should probably not just pick five, just bowl five if they're getting pumped. You want to change it up. There's no point having those guys who just come in when things are going well. You actually want to give, if you've got Glenn Phillips on the side and you've got a left-hander going well, you bring Glenn Phillips into bowl. The fact he didn't bowl a single delivery is baffling, especially when Yadav was going like a train on fire at the end. The second that Ishan Kishan got out, Phillips should have been given the ball. I thought that was disappointing.
So at what time? So basically, you are telling me that that Glenn Phillips should have bowled earlier. But once you're seeing, I think Jacob Duffy and Matt Henry was bowling really well in the first 2 overs. On the third over itself, Fuchs come at to bowl, and I think he conceded around 20 to 22 runs. So would you have given Glenn Phillips in the third over, or would you have given Glenn Phillips after the power play itself?
After the power play, definitely wouldn't have given him the third over. I think giving Folks the third over was a reasonable call. He's a swing bowler. He does best with the brand new ball. He often picks up wickets in his first over with the field up. It's not unusual for him to do that. You give him a chance. If you're not going to give him that chance, then why play him? You're playing him as a number 9 batsman. He's a bowler. He's a swing bowler, a new ball bowler. You got to give him the new ball. And he's inexperienced, but this is how you get experience. Yeah, you don't become experienced by watching. You become experienced by actually having a go and playing. And it's not a World Cup final. It's worth taking a risk to try and learn a little bit about him. And we learned that he's not very good at bowling with the dew. Right? We found that
Yeah,
out.
he was all over at the play. He was all over the places.
Yeah, we didn't know that before that. And actually he came back pretty well after his second over where he got absolutely mauled and he was 49. He went for 24 off his first, thought it can't get worse. He went 25 off his second, 49 off two. He actually came back pretty well. He should have had a wicket. He probably should have had 2 wickets in his third over.
And I think Mitchell Santner dropped the catch. Mitchell Santner did drop the easier catch of Suryakumar Yadav.
And Devon Conway missed one that just went over his head that could have been taken. So
Yeah.
there is, you look at that, you say, well, he did learn, and that's what, in some ways, that's what these bilateral T20s are for, right before a World Cup, is to actually find out, give your players a chance to get into those dark spaces and see what they learn about themselves.
But tell me, this New Zealand is playing. This New Zealand team is playing with this full strength, right? Matt Henry is back, Tim Seifert is back, and mostly all the players are back. But if you look at the bowling composition, and the first T20 they have given around over 200. The second T20 itself they have considered over 200 in the 16 over. So don't you think the bowling attack is a slightly concern for New Zealand team?
Oh, yeah, look, it is, but you've got to remember this is a very good Indian batting lineup too. And also, New Zealand conceded 216 overs against Pakistan this time last year and went on to win the series. So this is not the first time this bowling lineup has given up big runs in a T20. They chased down 201 in 16 overs in January last year, Pakistan. And sometimes you just have to say, well, the batsman had a good day. But there's no doubt that Henry, Duffy, Santner, and Sodhi are very good bowlers. The question is where do the rest of the overs come from? But that's not it's not like you're trying to find It's not like you've got 4 good overs and you're trying to find the other 16. But sometimes T20, sometimes the bowlers just turn into spectators when the batsmen are really on. That's what happens. There were 4 dropped catches. It's not like this was a performance where there was no chances given by India. And there were a number of there were sixes that were parried over the boundary. There were ones that just cleared the head of the fielders. Now, I mean, it's a big ground. It's a big field, and some of those 4s would probably be 6s on other grounds. But it was clearly
Yeah,
a fairly
that was probably a better ground than the rest of the ground which we played in India. That was a
yeah.
bigger ground.
Yeah, it was a big ground, and so that is saying that wasn't a concern. It's not like it was an indoor where it's almost indoor cricket with the size of the boundaries. That was
50 meter was a 6. 50 meter was a 6 in a indoor game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, indoors got the. I was talking to someone in New Zealand about it. Said, well, if you imagine the straight boundaries at Eden Park and then the square boundaries at Pukekura Park and put them together, that's indoor. It's a postage stamp of a ground. But what a great atmosphere it gets there. With those steep stands, I would love to go and watch a game there. I think it looks like a great place to watch cricket.
Yeah. And talking about the batting, Ishan Kishan was out of the team for the 1.5 year, but he come back and played brilliantly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's shown us in the IPL this is what he can do, isn't he? This is not like it's not like that they're picking some kid who's never played before. We've got some good evidence that this guy knows how to bat and can really score runs, and he did it today. Outstanding innings, yeah, absolutely outstanding. It'll be interesting to see what New Zealand come up with. They certainly came up with something for Abhishek. It'll be interesting to see what they can for Ishan Kishan the next match.
You did tell me about in the last video also that New Zealand will try to find a way to get out Ishan Kishan. And they did manage to get out on the Ishan Kishan and Sanju Samson. I was seeing that those 2 videos and I got the reminder that Michael did say to me on the last video that they will find a way to get Abhishek Sharma out. But after that, it was a carnage, right?
Yeah, that's right. And look, again, like I said in the last video, T20 cricket is an arms race. They'll be looking at what these guys did, and the analyst will probably have another 2 sleepless nights working through what do they do to get this guy out? What's the bowling plan they need to come up with? I got to do it once. I got to do some analyst work. Tim Southey asked me to come up with a bowling plan for him against Chris Gale, and I was up till about 3 a.m. before I found something that I could do. That I could give him for a one little weakness, one little thing to tell him to what to bowl. And my plan worked, which made me very happy. But that was it. That was my one experience of it. And I thought these guys that do it every day, they must be they're very, very good to be able to come up with that every time. I had huge amounts of data on Chris Gale. Some of these other guys, they've got next to nothing. And it took me hours and hours of going through it before I found one little weakness. These guys are very good. The guy that New Zealand cricket uses is very good. He will have something, but just because they find something doesn't mean it's going to work every time as well. Sometimes you can have the right delivery, you can figure out what the right thing is, and they'll still hit it for 4, or the catch will go down, and then that's it. You've lost your chance. That setup has now failed. He knows what's happening, and now you've got to find a plan B. So you need more than just one trick up your sleeve. It doesn't always work.
And finally, Surya Kumar Yadav is back in form after the 14-month gap between his last 50, and suddenly he once again looked in a brilliant touch today.
Yeah, I think sometimes we can call form what's actually just randomness. That cricket, you can get out early, and if you don't get out early, you get a chance to get your iron, and you go really well. and then the next game you start again. And if you put 4 good performances together in a row, you call that good form. But actually, he's a very good player that has good games and bad games, like every player in the history of T20 cricket. And his start was extraordinary because he just basically didn't have a bad game. He went through about 12 or 13 good games in a row, and maybe even more than that. And it was like 2 seasons of him hardly putting a foot wrong. And you thought, well, statistically, that just can't last. He's not going to continue doing that. There will be what's called a reversion to the mean, which is where he's going to have a couple of bad ones where the luck goes against him. But he's still a very good player, and you expect that he will still have an innings like this once every 3 or 4 innings. I don't think it's going to be like in the old days where he did it every single week, every single game. But I think he's still a very good player. He's still capable of doing this, and he's still going to have good days. New Zealand did really well to keep him quiet at the start. I think he was 15 off 12.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
and he got 34 off the next 11 or 35 off the next 11 balls to bring up his 100 off, 50 off 31. Well, 50 off 30. Oh no, was it 50 off? Oh, I can't remember what it was exactly. 21 balls or something. But he'd been so quiet, and then just bang. Sometimes if you allow a good player to get their eye in, and he was able to do that because all he needed to do was feed Ishan Kishan the strike, and so all he had to do was hit singles, and at that point there he's faced 10 deliveries, 12 deliveries. A player of his quality, if you give him the chance to face 12 deliveries, he's going to hurt you, and that's what he did. If there was pressure on from both ends, if Ishan Kishan hadn't taken the pressure off, we may not have seen that innings. I think it was really Ishan Kishan who won that match for India. And
Yeah,
while
yeah, it was a Ishan Kishan special.
4 runs, it was very much an Ishan Kishan performance. It should have been. I don't know who was awarded the man of the match, but if it wasn't Ishan Kishan, it was an absolute tragedy, actually travesty.
Okay, yeah. And final word about New Zealand batting, where they are getting wrong, because if you look at the start of the match, I think at some point of time, I think they would have scored minimum 220 to 230, and they got out on 208 or 209.
Yeah, look, I think too many wickets down. But look, it's hard to criticise a performance where they scored 200 and almost 210 runs, but you're asking the tail to do a lot of that hitting. If some of the players had been in a little bit at the end. I mean, Mitchell Santner, he's really developed his power game. He's really developed his hitting skill. But Ravindra, good innings, not quite long enough. Phillips didn't stay long enough. Devon Conway, to a ball, fantastic. That's really outstanding, but didn't go long enough. It's a really tricky balance because you need to be trying to hit everything for 4 or 6 if you're going to get those big scores. But if you do that, you're taking risks. I mean, that's what happened, is they lost too many wickets. I don't know that you can blame the players for it, though, because they're doing what they're supposed to do. It just didn't quite come off. And I think maybe there's if it's a skill issue, it's hard to blame the players for that. If it's a mentality, a mindset, a decision making, then you can say these things need to change. I don't know the decision making was the problem. I think it was perhaps the execution.
Okay, I think we'll wrap the show. Thank you, Michael. It was a pleasure talking to you again. We'll see you on the 3020 International, and we'll have a review with that. Thank you, Michael. Until then, guys who like it, just subscribe it and hit the bell icon. Thank you, Michael.
Good. Catch you later.